Hello and welcome to the freebets.com Premier League preview. Plenty of new faces on the pitch and in the dugouts, but a familiar one next to me on my left-hand side. Matt Le Tissier, of course, Saints legend, who's going to talk you through all the runners and riders for the new Premier League season. First up, Matt, same fixture as it was last season. Man United versus Swansea, but this time at Old Trafford. Louis van Gaal's first game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fairly comfortable win for Manchester United last year on the first day at Swansea, so I'd imagine the same result again this year. It's obviously a lot more tricky. I know Swansea went there in the FA Cup and beat Manchester United, but I think Louis van Gaal's first game in charge, I think all the players will be up for it. I think United will be too strong.
4-11 on the card, the first game at 12:45. United 1-3 the draw, and Swansea 9-1. What about the Swans, Matt? They've had a few changes at their place. Presumably survival is what it's all about again.
I think very much so. They obviously had a very good season a couple of years ago, where they finished top half, which no one was expecting. It's been a little bit tougher since then, and I think the ambitions for Swansea will probably be anywhere above 18th place. Gary Monk's got a tough job there. Trying to keep hold of Boney would be important for them. Obviously he scored a lot of goals for them last season, was a big player for them. If they can keep hold of them, they should have enough to stay up.
Yeah. Promoted team now. The first 3 o'clock kickoff is Leicester versus Everton. 9-4 about Leicester City. Draw 12-5. Everton 11-8. Leicester head and shoulders above people in the Championship last season. Different kettle of fish in the Premier League.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously they were very, very strong in that league, and it's not an easy league to get out of. So they obviously had a lot of good qualities there. Scored a lot of goals. Nugent and Vardy up front were pretty prolific for them last season.
First of the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday is Leicester versus Everton at the King Power. Leicester, of course, head and shoulders above everyone in the Championship last year. Now Everton, of course, a lot of quiet optimism around Goodison with Lukaku signing on a permanent basis, and of course Gareth Barry as well, who was in on loan last year. They're 11-8 for this game. Quite a nice price to start. You'd think they'd fancy the chances here?
Very much so. I think they were incredibly strong last season, and Martinez has done very well in securing the signings of Lukaku and Barry. I think a lot of people thought they were going to lose all their loan signings and it was going to be a bit of a struggle for them, but they've spent some big money on Lukaku and shown a real commitment there to try and improve and keep their better players. So I think 11-8 to go and win at Leicester is a good price, and I'd be taking that.
There you go. Matt fancies the Toffees in that one. Another newly promoted team, of course, is QPR. Harry Redknapp said at the back end of last season he'd have retired if he hadn't have won the playoff game against Derby. Has he put it off for another season? Will he be retiring at the end of this one?
No, I think QPR actually will do all right. I think they've made a very astute appointment in bringing Glenn Hoddle in as a coach there. Glenn has a fantastic knowledge of football, and from a tactical point of view, he was one of the best managers that I played under tactically. So I think that was a good move for him, and I actually fancy QPR to stay up and maybe surprise a few people. I think a lot of people thought after the last time that it might be another struggle for them, but I think they'll be okay this season.
Fair enough. They're 6-4 for this one at Loftus Road. Hull 11-5. Different scenario for Hull because, of course, they've got European football this season, which we know has taken its toll on other people in the past. 11-5 for this game, but what's their season looking like?
I think it might be a bit of a struggle. The back end of last season was a bit of a struggle for them. They kind of dropped down the league quite a few places in the last couple of months of the season. And as you say, with the Europa League commitments as well, that's a big strain on your squad. And I think again, it could be a bit of a season of struggle for Hull. Anything above 18th will do them fine, I think.
Yeah. Stoke now, obviously managed by Mark Hughes. Not everyone's favourite appointment to take over from Tony Pulis when he left. They're evens in this one against Villa, who are 3-1. The draw 12-5. Now, not everyone is very confident about Villa's chances, I have to say. Them and West Brom seem to be everyone's dark horses for the drop this time. But how will they get on in the Potteries?
I think it will be a tough game for Villa. I think Stoke last season ended up finishing 9th. It was a pretty strong season for them. I think Mark Hughes did a pretty good job there. I think they've brought in a very astute signing in Kirčić, Bojan Kirčić. If he can do the business, he's got a lot of talent, that boy. I saw him a fair bit at Barcelona when he came through. Just stalled a little bit, but if Mark Hughes can find a good place for him in his team, get the best out of him, I think Stoke again could finish top half.
Villa, of course, have made a significant appointment off the pitch in the shape of Roy Keane. Can he have an influence there?
It's difficult for an assistant manager to have a massive influence, but I think obviously with the struggle that they had last season and looking at the players that they brought in, I think it might be a long hard season again for them, and I think along with quite a few other people, I think Villa will struggle this year.
Another team possibly down towards the bottom end of the league is West Brom, who start at the Hawthorns against Sunderland. 5-4 you can get about the home side, 13-5 Sunderland and 9-4 the draw. Alan Irvine, discuss.
It was an interesting appointment, yeah, very interesting. I think that's a lot of the reason why people think that West Brom might struggle. I think obviously the lack of experience, managerial experience in that division. But I actually thought the same thing when Steve Clarke took over, and I thought West Brom might struggle that season. They ended up finishing 8th the year that I tipped them to get relegated, so I won't be tipping them again. But again, I think they'll be one of the teams in and around kind of the bottom area, but I think they may just have enough to stay up.
Yeah, they'll fancy their chances first up against Sunderland, do you think? Yeah,
they will. Obviously, Sunderland have tried to strengthen in areas where they felt they were a little bit weak. They did have a pretty good back end of the season. They looked for all the world from a large part of the season they were going to get relegated, but they managed to claw themselves out of it, and so they'll maybe be a little bit more confident going into this than West Brom actually will. So I think it will be a tight one. I actually fancy a draw in this game.
9-4 you can get about the draw. West Ham versus Tottenham. 11-4 you can get about the Hammers. 11-10 Tottenham. Now Tottenham usually make a lot of signings at this time of the year. They haven't made that many this time, apart from obviously a very significant one in the dugout.
Yeah, absolutely. They've stolen our manager all of us. Obviously, Mauricio did very well for us down here. He'll be looking to have a similar impact at Spurs. It will be tough for him because he hasn't been given huge amounts of money to spend. He hasn't made significant signings, although the 7 big ones that they made last season, he'll be hoping that he can maybe get the best out of those. I think Eric Lamela has had a much better pre-season this year and has looked like a multi-million-pound player again, so hopefully you can get the best out of him. They have struggled against West Ham, certainly last season. I think West Ham beat them 3 times last season, so 11-4 looks quite tasty when you think about that.
Absolutely. Now, speaking about dugouts, obviously Big Sam seems to be everyone's tip, unfortunately, for first for the chop. 11-4 for this one, West Ham, but they've stuck with him. Was that a wise move?
Yeah, it's so important for West Ham to be still in the Premier League when they move to the new ground. If they're going to have any chance of filling that stadium, they need to be playing Premier League football. And if you're looking at a manager who can almost guarantee you Premier League football, it might not be the prettiest way of doing it. But he's got a fantastic record, and I think that's what the owners will be looking at. So I don't see Sam being in too much trouble, to be honest with you.
Last but not least, on Saturday is the big game at the Emirates. Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. 1-4 Arsenal for this one. Palace 9-1. Plenty of ins and outs at the Emirates. Alexis Sanchez, of course, from Barcelona being one of the big ones. I remember this time last year they got beat by Villa at home on the first day. Will lightning strike twice?
I think probably not. I think I was watching that Aston Villa game, actually. That was my game on Soccer Saturday. And I remember actually predicting that Villa would get something out of the game because I did fancy them and I thought Arsenal might be a little bit susceptible early on. But I think with the squad they've got now, I think it will be a massive shock if Crystal Palace went there and won. Not a great deal of value in just betting the home side, but I think perhaps a -1 or -2 goals for the home side might be a little bit more better value.
Tony Pulis, of course, done a great job at Crystal Palace, but will probably need to work wonders again this season, you think?
Yeah, well, he's been doing a fair bit of wheeling and dealing to try and strengthen his squad. With the job he did last season, you wouldn't put it past him to do the same again. It might well be that Palace may be in the bottom half of the table, but with a manager like that, with his experience and his knowledge, I think you'd probably say that Palace would just have enough to stay up again.
Enough to stay up, but not enough in this one. Matt's tip is the -1 on the Asian handicap. Don't forget, of course, all your best bookies offers and tips are at www.freebets.com.